Okay, it's 3 o'clock. We survived the eclipse, and all the first responders are here to prove that we did. I want to remind you to please turn your cell phones on silent so that we won't be hearing your whatever kind of cute ring you get during the meeting. And with that, as we always start our meetings with prayer, we're joined here by the ministers of the Church of Horseshoe Bay, and I'm going to let John Duncan introduce
Scott.
our new minister.
Yeah, this is Scott Vermillion. He is our new co-pastor at the Church at Horseshoe Bay, and he's going to pray for us today.
Thank you.
Pray with me. Lord, we are grateful for the city. We're grateful for the men and women who call home Horseshoe Bay. And we ask that you would use this meeting to further your purposes in the city and beyond, to bless the people who live here and the folks who vacation here and the people who come to visit from far and wide. We pray that as they come here, they would get a taste of your grace and the fullness of life and all that you have to offer here. So we ask for your blessings, not because we deserve it, but because you're good and gracious and you love to give it. So use the leaders of our city to do your purposes today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, did you do the quorum for the record? Did you announce that a quorum?
Sure, I was just going to do that. So everybody is present, and we have a full quorum. And Carrie, okay, did you just pick up the? Okay, if there's anyone here who wants to make public comments that didn't sign up on the sheet over there, and actually nobody did. So if there's anyone who wants to make public comments, you can let us know, and you can still sign up to make public comments today. Okay, so having the full quorum, and we're ready to go into our agenda here. And the first thing, we have 3 proclamations. The first one is Public Service Recognition Week. And Rachel, do you want to say anything about this, or where's Rachel? Or do you want me to just go into it?
If you want to. We basically just recognize everyone that works for the city. And so we get a week where we get to celebrate them. And so we're just inviting the community to help us celebrate everyone that works here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the proclamation in part reads, the citizens of Horseshoe Bay are served each day by public citizens at the federal, state, county, and city levels. These unsung heroes do the work that keeps our city, nation working by ensuring clean water, public safety, integrity in elections, and the legislative process, and the proper management of public funds and resources. And each day, Horseshoe Bay's public servants exhibit the highest standards of professional excellence, innovation, integrity, and stewardship while providing outstanding service. Whereas all citizens of the city of Horseshoe Bay are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of your local public servants, now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor of the city of Horseshoe Bay that the week of May 5th through the 11th will hereafter be known as Public Service Recognition Week. The city council calls upon the citizens to celebrate the public servants in our community. So thank you so much to all of you. We are indeed lucky to have such an outstanding staff of people serving all of us here. The next one is proclamation declaring May 5th through 11th Drinking Water Week. And does either of you want to say anything about that?
Mayor and Council, we're going to be rolling out a 12-part series water video for the public, which is going to include water conservation, water safety. We're also going to be showing the process of water from A to Z, from the headwaters all the way to reclamation. These short 2-minute videos will show that process throughout this. Starting on May 5th, we're going to roll out a kind of a red carpet was what we're going to show. It's going to entail all 12 parts of the videos for the public. We'll be putting out on blast as well, so the public can get a bird's eye view of how this process works and how that drinking water ends up on their table. So,
Thank you.
there we go.
Well, the timing of this is very apropos, considering that our drought restrictions go into effect on May the 1st. So I'm sure that the public will be paying attention to what you all are saying that talks about water. The proclamation in part reads, whereas water is our most valuable natural resource and only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, and whereas any measure of a successful society are in some way related to the access to safe water, each citizen of our city is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in the local water issues by getting to know their water. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Elsie Thurman, do hereby proclaim the week of May 5th through the 11th as Drinking Water Week. And then the final one is a proclamation declaring May 12th through the 18th National Police Week. Jason, do you want to say something about that?
In 1962, President John Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as the National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. From January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, the FBI reported that 136 local, county, state, and federal law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty. The state of Texas was second in the nation with a total of 11 officer deaths performing in the line of duty.
Thank you, Jason. So this proclamation reads in part, whereas the members of law enforcement agency of the City of Horseshoe Bay play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the City of Horseshoe Bay, and it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding the life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor of the City of Horseshoe Bay, the week of May 12th through the 18th is hereafter to be known as National Police Week. City Council encourages citizens of our community to join in commemorating law enforcement officers past and present who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered dedicated service to their community. So thank you very much for all of you for that. And we do have many things to be grateful for. And we're going to be talking a little bit later in the agenda about the Hill Country 100 recognitions, which is another way of celebrating police officers. So announcements, we have some staff recognitions. And I think the first one is Chief Fowler.
Carlos. Mayor Council, Carlos Almaguer has been with the Horseshoe Bay Fire Department for 10 years. Carlos was born and raised in San Antonio, where he currently resides with his wife, Lisa, and his two children, Noah and Nayeli. Carlos began his career 8 years prior to his time at Horseshoe Bay, working as an industrial firefighter at the Toyota manufacturing plant. He has maintained part-time work in Central Texas EMS services, allowing him to stay well-practiced in emergency medicine at the basic level. During his career, Carlos has obtained certifications as a Texas Commission on Fire Protection Advanced Firefighter, Emergency Medical Technician Basic, Driver Operator for Pumper and Aerial, Wildland Firefighter, Instructor 1, as well as Officer 1 and 2 through, again, Texas Commission on Fire Protection. Carlos is assigned to the C shift and the role as firefighter. He is considered the senior firefighter on his shift and mentors the other 2 firefighters he serves with on C shift. Carlos celebrated as a C shift confined space specialist. Carlos brings a lot of humor to the station and is a great asset to the department. Please congratulate firefighter Almaguer in achieving 10-year anniversary with the city of Horseshoe Bay.
Thank you so much, Doug, and thank you, Carlos. We are very fortunate to have so many employees who have been here for a long time and understand our city and are providing such outstanding service. So thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much. The next recognition is the Finance Supervisor Court Administrator for winning Texas Municipal Courts Education Center's 2024 Municipal Traffic Safety Initiative Awards. And I think Molly is going to tell us about who that is and what she did to get that.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Molly Jester, and on April 4th, the annual MTSI conference was held in San Antonio. During the conference, awards were presented to municipal courts who have excelled in promoting traffic safety awareness. Our court was honored with an award for our work to enhance child safety on bicycles, in cars, and on golf carts. I would like to present this award to Beth Kuntz, our court administrator. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate all
Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much, Molly, and thank you, Beth. I don't know if, how many of you all council members walk through the offices, but if you were in Beth's office anytime between about last December and last July, you knew that it was just overwhelmed with, I don't even know where Beth put herself. She was collecting coloring books and all kinds, hats and things that she handed out on the 4th of July to the children. And it really was an outstanding effort that Beth just carried this off all by herself. So congratulations on that award, Beth. Thank you for all you do. And now, as promised, we're going to talk about some awards that our staff won at the Hill Country 100 Club meeting. Jason, were you going to discuss those? Tell us about them? Okay.
On March 2nd, the Hill Country 100 Club hosted its annual awards banquet in Burnett. Officer Lynn Snyder was selected as the Horseshoe Bay Officer of the Year for 2023. Officer Snyder joined the department in January of 22. Prior to joining the department, he worked as a ranger with the LCRA. Lynn holds a Master Peace Officer license from T. Cole, and it's the highest certification given by the state. Lynn was nominated for this award due to the outstanding efforts he puts forth in carrying out his daily duties and his ability to work with others and his willingness to assist them in performing their duties. In addition to normal duties, Officer Snyder took the initiative to help the department maintain and improve our patrol boat. Thank you, Lynn.
Congratulations. Thank you.
And Officer Lynn Thorpe was recognized for meritorious service in 2023. Officer Thorpe previously received the police citation last year for his actions after responding to a residential house fire in July of 23. Officer Thorpe was on patrol when he observed smoke in the area of 4th Street. Officer Thorpe, knowing that a burn ban was in place, quickly located the source of the smoke and fought the fire with fire extinguishers. He was able to vacate the house and delay the spread of the fire until the fire department arrived. Thank you, Lynn.
Congratulations. And then is Captain Schmidt not here? Oh, okay.
No, ma'am. He's off duty today.
Okay.
But he was recognized as Responder of the Year and was actually selected by the firefighters at Horseshoe Bay for that honor and put forward to the 100 Club, and the 100 Club recognized him.
How wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is a great honor for you all to represent Horseshoe Bay and be recognized by the Hill Country 100 Club for all that you do, and we appreciate it. So congratulations. Thank you. Well done. Thank you very much. Okay, we have no public comments today. And so we'll move right into the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is fiscal year 2024 second quarter financial report. Molly Jester, are you going to do that? What happened?
Two new employees.
Oh, did I skip something? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies, Jeff. Yes, the two new employees. Who's talking about?
Yeah, go ahead. Ray is nervous. He got all of his words in. So, okay. I think first up is Gavin Ramirez. Gavin, if you want to come out, and then do you have Tyler back there with you? Tyler, you got or George, either one. Gavin is our newest field operator trainee in the field division of utilities. He lives in Bertram, Texas, where he and his family are very involved in Victory Baptist Church. He had a sales fabrication background previously, but experienced mostly in construction trades. And just want to welcome him to the utilities team. So,
Absolutely. Thank you.
you got to get a picture. Wait, Tyler, you got to get there. Yes, sir. Yeah, for scale.
Come here.
I think I can say it. Can I say that? No, no, but Donnie didn't say I couldn't say that.
I don't know. I just worked it.
Okay, so now you're going to put on your other hat?
Yes, ma'am. Yep. Now I'll be development services for a minute.
Okay.
So our other new employee in development services, the administrative assistant, Marla Ivy. She comes to us with a wealth of experience, 30 years in government, the last 22 of which were spent in the planning and development department for DeLand, Florida. She moved here to be closer to her fiance. She has an adult daughter that lives in Florida, and then she still has a young daughter at home with her and her fiance. She, like I said, brings a wealth of knowledge. She has experience in GIS, planning, basically everything in the development services envelope. So we're very thankful to have her here.
Right. Welcome. Welcome to a busy department.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Mayor.
Okay, now Jeff has one other staff-related announcement to make.
Yeah, it is with mixed feelings of joy and also sorrow that I let y'all know that Chief Rocky Lowe is retiring. And so he is retiring as of May 15th. And he's on vacation right now, enjoying his life. And the joy is that he's going to start traveling and enjoying life, which he sorely deserves after more than 40 years of service in the public service, starting with the DPS, going all the way through the Texas Rangers as a ranger, and then as a captain of the Rangers. And then we were blessed to have Rocky here for almost 15 years as our police, within the police department, who trained under Bill Lane, was his selected person to replace him, and has done a wonderful job. And so, like I said, it's mixed feelings that I say goodbye to him. We will be planning a going away party with him. So, but we also will accept it at the front desk and at the police department any cards or anything that well wishers for him for his retirement as well. but we will be working to do a celebration of his service coming up pretty soon. More will come out on that. So just want to let y'all know about that.
Thank you. And certainly for myself and my husband, Rocky's a good friend and such an outstanding member of this staff. And we will miss him being here, but he's still going to be in Horseshoe Bay. And so we'll look forward to getting to be with him in his retirement years. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Okay. Thank you very much. So now, Molly, and the quarterly fiscal report.
Coming up or?
Do you have slides?
Oh, okay. So Molly Jester here.
It's the
Bottom.
up button or down button.
Okay. Molly Jester here to report the second quarter financials. The first slide is the general fund revenue analysis. Every slide will be 10/1/23 to 3/31/24, which represents 6 months or 50% of the fiscal year. Each slide will have line items by department, but if you look at the total revenues for the general fund, they were 10.5 million versus 13.8 million budget. So we are at 77% through 6 months, and that's mainly due to our property taxes. I'd like to point out one line item with the highest percent. It's interest income, which is the second from the bottom. It's 333,000 for 6 months versus 100 for budget. And we will do a budget amendment, which will be discussed later on. The next slide is the general fund expenditure analysis. Again, it's by department and for 6 months. If you look at the total, it's 5.5 million versus a budget of 13.4. So we are at 41%. Most of the departments are slightly under, except for technical services, which is just slightly over. The next slide is our capital fund, our general fund capital expenditures. If you look at the total line, we are at 156,000 for 6 months versus a budget of 374,000. So we are currently at 42%. The other line items will be spent in the next 6 months, or we're waiting on filling a position. The next slide is the utility fund revenue analysis. Again, by department, and for 6 months, the total is 5.8 million versus a budget of 18 million. So we are currently at 32%. For 6 months, it's low, but it picks up during the summer with more usage. The next slide is the utility fund expenditure analysis. Again, if you look at the total, we are at 5.6 million versus a budget of 12.5. So we're currently at 45% at 6 months, which is again good. And we will increase as the usage does. The next slide is the utility fund capital expenditures. Again, at 6 months. If you look down at the total, 212,000 versus 5.5 million. So we're at a mere 4%. And as you can tell, there's many line items that have not started. So our utility department will be very busy the next 6 months. And that is the end. Are there any specific questions?
Council members, do you have any questions?
Kind of report I like.
I would like to go back 3 slides to the utility fund revenue analysis, Molly, if you could. Can you go back?
Yes.
That one. So is that 20% typical for the first 6 months, first half of the year?
Well, there are budget amendments that affect this line that are not included yet,
Okay.
that are being discussed later on.
What is that? What is in administrative revenue?
Let me make sure. Oh, the ARPA grant is in there, and I'm going to request funding this month. I've already requested. That's about six.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yes, the biggest one is
That's
the
the
ARPA
biggest part.
fund, the ARPA grant.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we don't need to take any action on this. This is just a presentation for your information. And then the next item on the agenda is deer trapping. Council, I know that we went through the deer trapping, these slides at the April 2nd workshop, but we didn't have anybody from the public there. And I thought this was a significant enough issue in our community that I wanted to have you briefly go through this again. And Jason's going to do that for us because I wanted this to be something that the public is aware of as well. So Jeff, go ahead.
Right. So in the last 2 years, we have not trapped due to the drought. And before that, we've been trapping every year, and anywhere from 200 to 400 deer that we trap a year. And we started this about almost 20 years ago. And we started it mainly because we were getting so many hits. We were hitting, I think it was around 500 to 600 hits on 2147 a year. And so that was causing a lot of damage to vehicles and a safety issue. And the herd was just really getting out of control. They weren't healthy. And so we started this process and we went through doing trapping with nets. And that was a good management way. We actually went through a public-private group to look at the best ways to do this. And it came out a conclusion that the trapping through nets was the best way to handle this. All of the deer that are taken are processed and given to food banks. So all of the work that's done is good for the community and it helps out in that sense. But the last 2 years, we noticed a noticeable dip in that. We weren't getting the cars hit on 2147. So we kind of use that as a benchmark to move forward with it. So this year, we started looking at it a little different and started to want to look at, is there a possible another way we could do the trapping? And so what Jason's going to talk about is kind of what our new way of kind of thinking about how we're going to do the trapping. We still have to do it to manage the herd no matter what. We're still going to use a benchmark of using 2147 as part of that, and then surveys of the deer population and obviously the health of the population as well. But I'm going to turn it over to Jason to talk about kind of our new thought process of doing this.
So in the beginning, we reevaluated some of the methods of management of the deer herd, which include hunting, sharpshooting, trapping, fencing, and fertility control. It had been a while since we had revisited these options, and some of the technologies have advanced in these areas. In conclusion, though, we were able to determine that the trapping was still the best choice for a community our size. We looked at some of the equipment that it would take to do the trapping, and we're proposing that our animal control department for the city handle the deer trapping. It allows us a lot more flexibility in determining and adjusting the numbers to be trapped for the health of the herd and for the population control. The picture on the left is a trap that is different than the nets that were used in previous years. This style of trap allows for a lot better control of the animals. It seems to be a lot more humane than the nets that were used in previous years. We would also need a transport trailer for this project for the deer to be transported for processing. Some of the other things that were needed were squeeze chutes for the trailer, for the deer trailer, and a vehicle capable of towing that capacity of trailer. Also, we talked about our staffing. We have one part-time animal control officer currently. We would need to convert that to a full-time position to allow us with the needed people for this project. As far as the deer processing, Parks and Wildlife does not allow deer to be trapped and transported for release in other areas because of the chronic waste disease. And the cost of the processing is $120 per deer. And we discussed some of our budgetary impacts, what we spend in previous years. And currently we do have some money in that line item for the possible purchase of some of this equipment during this current fiscal year. Some of the benefits with undertaking the deer trapping with our animal control officers is the relationship that we have with the biologist as far as the testing of the herd. We can perform our own deer counts. And also it allows us a lot better management of complaints that come in resulting from the trapping. And we can also adjust the location of the trapping ourselves.
Mayor?
You through? You through, Jason?
Yes, I am.
Okay, yes, so Councilman King has a question.
The expense of hiring a full-time person instead of a part-time, another part-time, is that going to cause, is that in our budget to do that already, or is that something we're going to adjust the budget for?
No, we would make the adjustment to that budget. I think the impact for that was a little more than $20,000 a year.
And the expense that we had been spending before we stopped a couple of years ago was approaching 100,000. And 2 years ago, when we met with the individual who was doing that, was kind of changing the process, and the expenses were going up considerably. And so that's one of the reasons we paused too, because it was beyond our budget in the year that we looked at it to do that, and we just didn't see the numbers. It was worth spending that much money, over $100,000 to trap, and we could only guarantee a small amount. And so this is about 20,000, I think, for the part-time to go to full-time. And then obviously it costs for some of the equipment cost. Actually has some numbers up here, kind of where we were looking at. And so more about the cost for the trailers and the cages. So that would be a one-time capital cost for those.
But those were not in our budget.
Not this year.
We have $30,000 in our 2024 budget for animal trapping, but I don't believe, my understanding from from the workshop we had was that this is not going to start probably until fiscal year 2025. So we may, with council's permission, I think when we discussed it last week, everybody was pretty much in agreement that you could purchase the equipment this year and then start the process next year. And so I don't think we'll be making any budget adjustments for deer trapping to 2024 budget. Am I correct?
That's correct. We will use the money that we had for this year for some of the equipment. It's not going to cover all the equipment. And then as we go through the budget process in July, we'll come to you with the numbers for 2025.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
There's 2 traps, right, that we get, and one trailer?
Our plan is to start out with 2 traps and a deer trailer.
1 trailer, okay. That will service both traps.
Correct, yes.
And then the traps can be moved from place to place very easily.
Yeah, in the first couple of years during this, we would probably try to add in 2026 an additional trap, and then one more in 2027, and that would give us 4 total. And we think that we can manage it a lot better that way.
Okay, and I would just ask that when you start to roll this out, that Dan get involved and we do a public information campaign so that our community's not surprised when they see these pins go up around town, that they understand what's being done and why it's being done, and hopefully I know there are people who are never going to like it, but our deer population, I mean, the carcasses that we had on this current report are actually down from they were last year this time, but this isn't the time of year that that we start seeing really active deer population. So I'm sure that'll change.
We'll see a lot of babies being born now, and then those will start showing up on the roads too.
Right, sadly. So, okay.
You
I
probably
think-
answered this the other day, but is there a season of trapping, or is this something you're going to go?
There is, it coincides with hunting season pretty much.
October to March.
Is that it? Okay. You probably said that, and I just.
And I would say we're also looking into other options as well, as we could use the pins for such thing as potential sterilization if we ever get to the point of doing research and finding that's something that's viable for Texas Parks and Wildlife to allow us to do.
I think that is, that's coming along. Now, I do remember a question on how long those traps would last, the last time we spoke about it. And right now they're getting 15 to 20 years out of those traps. And of course that involves some minor repairs and things along the ways, but that's, quite a long time for that equipment.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jason, for presenting that again. So now we'll move on to the business section. The first item on our agenda is ordinance 2024-10, amending Chapter 13 utilities, and Rick's got on his utilities director's hat. Council, you all, this was not in your packet. We put this ordinance on your desk. You've got it? Everybody got it? Okay.
The pages are numbered. Carrie has them numbered in the bottom right corner, except for the first two, which is the staff report. So I won't read the staff report to you unless you want me to. Page 2 highlights changes we have in the ordinance since the workshop. Those are also highlighted in the packet just in order to draw attention to it. So what I will do is I will just start and highlight changes going through each page unless y'all stop me or have questions specific to that. So if y'all are ready, we'll move to page 1. That one's easy. It's just updating the sections we're changing. Page 2, same thing in section 1. That's just it's showing the things that we're changing in this ordinance. Down in number 4, the penalty clause. This is on advice from our attorney. We could charge up to $2,000 in that penalty. So we're changing that from $500 to $2,000 based on feedback from the workshop.
Is that
yes, ma'am.
per day?
It can be a continuing violation. Typically, there's a notice of violation and compliance. So
So it's $2,000 per day, or would it be?
if they went to municipal court and were convicted, the judge could assess a fine up to $2,000 a day.
Oh, okay.
I did want to clarify too, because Mayor, I talked to you a little bit before this. This is the criminal sections 2,000. So the penalties in the back too, those are actually administrative fees. So they're separate, two separate things. So we could fine them on the administrative side, and then if it was bad enough to get a citation, then they would then go to court as well.
Okay.
So it could be concurrent fines. So, okay. Any questions on that?
We'll get a bunch of them.
Page 3 just has X's for the date, so I'll skip that. Page 4. So one thing about this ordinance specifically is it is the water conservation and drought contingency plan, and so you'll see some of this stuff is in there twice because those ordinances overlap. So page 4 starts the water conservation plan. Most of these are updates of definitions. Some of these are LCRA definitions. Some of them are in-house. Hand watering, that's something that was in there before. LCRA also recommended that we update hose end sprinkler, ornamental landscaping, and ornamental turf grass. So those are in there. Any questions on those? And then the chart at the bottom, these charts we didn't have them ready for the council workshop. These really go to TCEQ. They just show what our gallons per connection and irrigation use and all that based on population. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to go back to page 4, and I just want to highlight that chart at the bottom.
Yes, ma'am.
In 2023, our city water usage was 711,700 gallons, right?
711 million, yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
million, I'm sorry.
Yep.
And that is lower than what was in 2022 and 2021. So the city of Horseshoe Bay has done an outstanding job already in reducing our water usage. And I'm sorry that the LCRA didn't recognize that with their regulations, but there's nothing we can do about that. But kudos to you and kudos to the community for doing a good job that we've already done.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of credit to staff, and I'll recognize David. David and Rebecca, I should have recognized them ahead of time too. They're very instrumental in getting this ordinance prepared. But David, you'll see he came on staff in 2023, which also coincides with more aggressive enforcement of our 22. I apologize. He came on at some point. I don't know.
Jeff?
I just want to say that in 2011, the last drought that we had before we initialized a lot of our conservation measures, we exceeded that 2023 level in that year.
Mhm.
So we've done a really good job over the last 15 years of keeping that down. And kudos go to the staff for a lot of the work they do there.
And to the community.
Yeah, and the community. And I echo your sentiment that LCRA should give us some type of recognition for that. They do give us recognition, but they didn't cut us any slack on this. So
How many houses were added during that time too? So we're
Exactly.
about 1,000.
Exactly.
Yes.
over 1,000 houses.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Have this
Yeah.
kind of reduction. LCRA, they need
Yeah.
to get a life.
Yes, sir. Agreed.
Go ahead, Rick.
Second that too, Frank.
Yes. Thank you all for your feedback too. Page 5, continuation of charts. They're just different. We've got water loss, average peak flow, ratios, et cetera. They're kind of self-explanatory, but I can go in depth if you'd like me to. If not, we'll move on. And the same thing, the reason the second chart is highlighted is we didn't have those. Those numbers are very hard to derive, so we had to spend a little extra time. Page 6, again, just the same numbers in the formats TCEQ wants to see them. And then we also have additional measures. One thing that David, credit to David and Rebecca for bringing this up is we have a requirement for turf soil of 6 inches of modified soil when a new landscape is put in. It's been vague, and we've got feedback from builders and irrigators that it's really hard for them to meet the criteria, really know what we're looking for. So we just added one line in there to give them some guidance for that. And then also we changed the date. Any questions on that? Okay, so that's it on the water conservation plan. Page 7 starts drought contingency. So the same thing at the top, you'll see the same definitions reflected. It's the same definition, same chart for page 7. So nothing new there. Page 8 is where we sort of start to get into the meat of this. So I tried to summarize some of this, and I was going to add a slide, but it's would be nearly impossible to summarize the changes. This essentially what we've known for the stages before and how LCRA has enforced this, we're completely different, almost 180 on it. So this is going to be something we're, as staff, are going to have to really educate the community on what the new requirements and stages mean, what the new trigger points are. So that is something we'll work with Dan very extensively to get that out. But to start, stage 1, historically, Horseshoe Bay has not even bothered being in stage 1 because it's voluntary. So we've always prided ourselves on staying in stage 2. We'll probably change that now. Truthfully, I will advise we change it now, mostly because we didn't really get any credit from LCRA for it. We were actually the only city that sent comments in against some of their changes. They highlighted that, I think, in their firm water meeting. The Horseshoe Bay is the only one that spoke against it, but we really didn't get anything out of it. And it can be confusing for residents. They see LCRA's in stage 1, but Horseshoe Bay's in stage 2. And so some of this is us just adopting LCRA's staging plan. So stage 1 is mandatory conservation. That will be twice weekly watering. And I'll go in depth with this more as we go throughout this too. Stage 2 is mandatory as well.
Let me just go back just to clarify.
Yes, ma'am.
We used to call what is now called stage 1, we used to call stage 2. We're just lining up with what LCRA said.
Yes, ma'am.
So that because we are going into stage 2.
Correct.
But it's different from what our stage 2
Yes,
used to
ma'am.
be.
It would be
Clear as mud, right?
we'll go into stage 2 when we adopt this on May 1. We'll be in stage 2, which formerly would have been stage 3. So it's basically everything moved up a level. Is maybe the easiest way. Good point. So stage 2 will now be once weekly watering, and then one of the other things they kind of threw at us last minute is it's also no more than 10 hours. So previously you had from midnight to 10 a.m. and then again 7 p.m. to midnight. So you had a total of 15 hours. Now they've restricted that to 10. So that's one change they made in stage 2 that was kind of a curveball for us. Stage 3 is also once per week watering, but it's no more than 6 hours, midnight to 6 a.m. And there's target reductions on there too. And then stage 4 is mandatory. It's no automatic underground, or the addition they added was hose end sprinklers. So you'll see some variances in stages 2 and 3 where if you're hand watering with a positive cutoff, so basically something spring loaded, so if you let go, it stops. You're exempt from that hand water all day. If we go into stage 4, you're not allowed to hand water except between the hours of 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And there's some other restrictions in there too, but you can't, there's no watering of ornamental landscape or anything like that. It's basically to save your slab and save your trees, etc. Yes, sir. Y'all feel free to, if you have questions, it's not.
We can actually, we being Horseshoe Bay, we can monitor that.
Yes.
How is Marble Falls, Granite Shoals, Kingsland, Cottonwood, they can't do this.
Agreed.
So how would they, I mean, let's be realistic. How is this going to get policed? The only community in the Highland Lakes that can actually do this is Horseshoe Bay. Am I correct?
Well,
Yeah.
How are you going to be
Let
able
me-
to tell where somebody goes from 10 hours to 6 hours? I mean, if I'm in Marble Falls, there's no way.
They have Water Smart, but it's not, I don't think they use it as a tool for staff like we use it. So
I rest my case. So it's going to get abused by everybody, every community except the one community that can actually monitor and do this.
Well, and you're right. On the 10 hours, it's going to be hard to monitor it, and that's what we're gonna have to do that because we have to look at the times they're watering anything out. We do that now with the 3-day
I understand.
week, so like that. But the other way that they're going to hold communities is they're going to look at their raw water production.
Total usage.
Yeah, total usage, which is not really the best way to do this. It's not a good policing action. You're right.
it's difficult for El Cerrito to enforce that too, because you have to account for a growth factor. There's a lot of variables that go into that. Will make you feel better, but I live in Burnett, and my son and I will absolutely turn in water violators that we see in our community. So
Well, that's okay. So one person, you're going to get
yes,
3 people. I mean, give me a break.
He won't
This
be
is-
no, I agree. It's a
this
fair
is
point.
This is a travesty.
Yes, sir.
This really is a travesty.
We,
And Horseshoe Bay is going to pay the brunt of this because we're so far ahead of the other communities. I don't get this.
So one of the things with this too, I request, I guess through Jeff, it would be good when we go to the firm water meeting with El Cerrito, if we can consolidate comments or something to take to them. I think some feedback would be beneficial. Not to spring that on Jeff, but I think he agrees. Fair point, sir. So that's sort of the synopsis of it as you go down. So down further on the page where it elaborates on stage 1, it used to be a voluntary, now is a mandatory stage. There's a 10% reduction target. That's what we're targeting by being in that stage. We added the triggering mechanisms, which was a good point from council to have that in there. I would advise for residents, read this and be familiar, but look to us. We will keep it on the website, what stage we're in, because what they've done now is formerly they had a target. Now they have a target in, target out. They're 2 different numbers. So the target going into stage 1 is 1.1 million acre feet of combined storage. For somebody that doesn't understand that terminology, is totally okay. Basically between Lakes Buchanan and Travis, in normal conditions, they will hold 1.8 million acre feet. That's under normal operations. So when we get down to 1.1 combined, it'll trigger into stage 1. To get back out of it, it's got to be up to 1.4. There's also inflow criteria that's very difficult to explain, but they'll measure inflows, they measure storage. There's a couple different variables. LCRA will take that into account. They will put us in stage, and we'll have X amount of days, I think it's 60, for us to comply. So when they put us in there, I will monitor that. Plus, we'll get notifications, and then it'll be on the council agenda that we need to update our drought contingency.
Okay, I got to make another comment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how are you going to factor in new build? Considering we have no ability to control growth from a moratorium. So are you going to report, here's our baseline and these are the additional houses? So is there going to be a factor to cover us for the additional growth?
No, sir. No, it's and it gets more than that later on in the plan, but there's a gallon per connection per day in there. But when they're looking at this, they're not really looking at anybody's population. They're only looking at storage capacity in those two.
How do we get those two state controlled to talk to each other?
That's a
If
good question.
part of the state is saying, no, you can't control growth.
Mhm.
And obviously Horseshoe Bay is a very desirable place for people to go, and building is not going to slow down.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to be adding more homes than Cottonwood Shores.
Yes, sir.
That factor has to be considered somehow.
I'm
That's
not
probably
sure
the
how
best
that's
question.
because of the growth that we have in the Central Texas area right now. You can multiply it. So yeah, you're right. It's an exasperated problem. And I think the best way to deal with that is, because we have a legislative session coming up, is to work on the political side with our representatives to make sure that they understand that the water issue is much bigger, and that they've got to take a bigger initiative to do things to advance water for our future, but also to allow communities to restrict or to be able to, at least reduce some of the water consumption used for new developments, because it is a problem.
Didn't Dripping Springs do some moratorium on
They did because of the wastewater. They had a issue with the wastewater plant. They reached capacity, and they couldn't get a new permit because they were going under. They were in a lawsuit to not build the plant, expand. Yeah. Yeah. Welcome to the politics of
We've
water.
already doubled our capacity in wastewater, so we can't use that.
Yeah.
Let's think outside the box.
Okay.
Figure out a different
Yeah,
way.
I agree.
I'm
Good
advised
process.
by Ray and his former hat as county is sometimes counties would get together and have proclamation, multiple county areas, and then send that on. So possible. It's
This
more of
is
a
definitely something the next time that we have the coalition of mayors get together that I'm sure we'll be discussing at that time, because we talk with other Highland Lakes mayors, and
Yes, ma'am.
it's a problem for
Points.
everybody. So go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
You're on page
Page
9?
8. Yes, and that was it. So other than that, it's just updating voluntary to mandatory. The last section before I get into stage 2 is drip irrigation is no longer exempt. And so we did get that. They're hesitant to give it to us in writing, but they did. And then we got it from Stacy Pandy as our account rep, I guess you would call her. Not really our account rep, but with LCRA. So she did say that the drip's no longer exempt under any drought stage. So it is in stage 2 also. It was in a different section. So I'll point out that. Go ahead, sir.
It's no longer exempt from any of the stages?
Correct.
But it can't be monitored. So
It's really,
Well, but except
really hard.
that we have a lot of, not a lot, but I know we have some residents who have retrofitted their systems to go with mostly drip irrigation instead of sprayers. And we thought that those were going to be exempted. We do see that they're using more water. David goes out. I mean, this is what we did last year, right, David? David would go out and say, okay, you're watering more than you're supposed to. And they would say, yes, but it's drip. And that was exempted. So it wasn't a problem. Those people, when we go out this year and say you're watering more than you're supposed to, they're going to say it's drip. And David's going to have to say, I'm sorry. that is included in these restrictions. So we just don't have a lot of good news. There is one bit of good news,
Go ahead.
and that's that there are some restrictions there are some variances that can be worked out for new turf. That would make you happy. That they have to, it's pretty strict on what they have to do, but Rick can give people a variance if they put in new landscaping. So, see, silver lining.
Not all bad. Yeah. I would have liked to have got the drip if I could have. I'd have given up variances for drip if it was my decision to make. But so into stage 2, same thing. It's mandatory. The target before was 10 to 25%. Now they've hammered in. They want it to be 20%. So that's an update. As you move down the page, same thing. We've got triggering mechanisms. So new stage 2. Again, it's all the inflow criteria, which is difficult to explain. The baseline, though, is as combined storage levels in those 2 basins drop below 900,000 acre feet. Or on March 1st or July 1st, if the combined storage is below 1.1 and the cumulative inflows to the last 3 months are 25%, there's some other stuff, they'll take us to stage 2. For ease of explanation, right now we are below 900,000. We're at like 842. Yeah, okay. I checked it this morning. We're at 842 this morning. So once we adopt this, put into effect on May 1, we will go into stage 2 based on current storage levels. To get back out of stage 2, we've got to be above 1.1 million acre feet. So you see before, like I said, they kind of overlap to go in and out. So going in is 900,000, coming out is 1.1 million to go back into stage 1. The other big change on this is the watering schedule. This is something I know we talked about in April, and the mayor put out her watering schedule to the public to kind of update them. One of the things El Cerrado did to us again at last minute is we used to have that midnight to 10 and then also 7 to 12. So you could break up and have 2 watering and really use the water to a beneficial application. They took away that night watering. And so by doing that, we are concerned on the operational side that it is going to drive people to overwater in the mornings, and it is going to exceed our peak flow capacity and storage for the plants. And so it makes the schedule a little more complicated, but what we're recommending is breaking it down a little further. And so that's at the bottom of the page. So instead of historically, if you're an odd number address, you would have Saturdays. We wanted to break that down to Wednesdays and Saturdays. So if your address ends in a 1 or 3, it would be Wednesday. If it ends in 5, 7, or 9, it would be Saturday. And then we did a corresponding thing for Thursday and Sunday on even numbers. So that's the big change. If you look at this, that's probably the biggest change. There's a lot. That's going to be the hardest one for the public. So obviously we'll, as much as we can, there'll be some grace period to transition. I expect it's going to be a lot of calls for David to assist, changing people's timers. And any questions on that?
A little concerned about picking Saturday when a lot of people are gone on Saturday.
Yes, sir. Yes, we could have changed it. I was trying, truthfully, when we did this, I was trying not to deviate too much. We could have changed it altogether, but a lot of people I know are used to Saturday and Sunday. Historically, Wednesday and Thursday is our biggest watering days in the plant, but it was a concern.
I thought Sunday was the big one, Sunday night when you drain everything.
Sunday usually creates more issues for us because we haven't been able to resupply fully in the storage tanks. And then also, you are correct, in the summer, that is we're a weekend community. So we'll do some things operationally with plant staff to make sure that we're able to keep up with that. And then you see too that Friday, so there'll be no watering on Mondays and then also Friday. So it'll give us another day during the week. So some silver lining. It'll give us Fridays to sort of recoup the plants and get the storage tanks back up before weekends, especially 3-day holiday weekends. So.
How are we gonna get this announced? Because I mean, if we were going to vote on it today and it goes into effect May the 1st.
So the good news is we don't have a lot of irrigation right now. So some of it we're going to have to use all of our resources. So probably the Civic Ready Blast, we'll put it on the website. We can do some targeted stuff, I believe, through WaterSmart, send some stuff. And then, when you get down to the penalty phase, the first warning is us giving written warning. So what we'll do is we'll sort of cheat the system a little bit. We'll go out and knock. If we catch you the first time, we're going to come tell you and say, hey, we passed this. It passed in May. It's LCRA mandated. What can we do to assist you? Assist you with your timer, or can you have your irrigation person come out? So with whatever we can do sort of in the letter of the law, we'll do, because it is a huge change.
So Rick, they came out in February. They gave us trigger points of 600,000 acre feet, 900,000 acre feet. They gave us 2 periods of water. They gave us 1 day a week water. Now they've already come back and they changed their penalty structure. Are they done?
Unfortunately, no.
How can we rely on anything? We're trying to pass an ordinance and tell people what's going on, and they're still changing things.
And the direct question is no, ma'am, they're not. I think the meat of it, they're probably done, but they have indicated today that there's still definitions they're working on. And then I'll get to the worst part last, is they anticipate that we will probably trigger some sort of pro rata curtailment by the end of the year. It depends on rain, and so I don't want to cause any panic or anything, but it could be that they prematurely take us to stage 4 at the end of the summer, depending on what the inflows look like. So
We bypass 3 and go right to 4.
yes, sir.
That is if it gets down below what, 600,000?
Yeah, it would have to be. There's some
Record
inflow
low.
criteria. The inflow criteria is the one that, for me, I'll have to look a little bit how they're calculating that. They do have a meeting later this month, the firm water, so I'll attend that with David and Ray. So we'll have some questions for them on how exactly they're calculating that. What should we be looking for?
Okay.
Good questions, though. So on page 11, moving down, same thing. Still no watering on Mondays and no watering on the customer's next watering day if it rains during that week. That's what the rule says, but we'll see as far as the rain goes. So,
Okay.
restrictions. There's some new restrictions. Outdoor misting systems at a commercial facility. They're allowed between the hours of 4 p.m. and midnight. So those are I think a couple of restaurants, they have them. So now you can't run them all day. It's only during the heat of the day. Those are the little misters they put on the balconies for the fans. Those are for commercial establishments, though. If you have them at your house, my understanding is they're not addressed by this. So, and then it's restriction for retail customers, irrigation of landscaped areas with hose-in sprinklers, limited to no more than once weekly watering schedule. Yes, variance may be requested for commercial landscapes and recreational areas where no part of the landscape is watered more than once per week. So that's just the definition they put in there. I don't really get that one. But one thing we recommend, I don't know that LCRA made us add this. Staff is recommending that we add no bulk water sales for use outside of the city of Horseshoe Bay. I feel like that's probably would be popular with the residents. Currently, that is one thing, bulk water. They have reached out to us. As other cities have enacted their drought contingency, they're having a hard time sourcing water. So I think when we're asking our residents to cut back, seemed kind of common sense. We would say we're not going to sell to other communities. And then drip irrigation also no longer exempt in this stage.
This will have a budget impact because you're not going to get your revenue, your water sale.
Correct. Yes, sir. I build in a little bit of cushion with the revenue projections, but even that, it's 5 to 10%. Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm curious. I'll have a better idea when we come in the July workshop. I think by then we'll have gone through May and June. Obviously, any anomalies I see, I'll report during council too. But it's a little bit unknown to me, but it will have some budget impact. Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's a lot. I can read these if you want, but Section L on page 12 is draining and refilling of swimming pools. Basically, you can't drain them onto an impervious, so not on concrete or asphalt. You've got to drain on a pervious. So I guess if you want to drain your pool, take advantage of it and drain it on your landscape or into buckets or something. And then repairing them, filling them, all that needs to occur on your watering day. So
Can we control new pool permits?
I think there's a section later on. Is that addressed, David? Okay. Yes.
I can't hear what David
I'll
said.
repeat it.
Okay.
In stage 3, so we're still in stage 2. In stage 3, if you build a new pool, it can only be constructed if you have a permanent cover to stop evaporation.
Okay.
So, so section M, athletic fields. We added that because it includes golf courses. It's just the LCRA definition. We're on page 12 still.
Okay, I just have a question about the pools, and
Yes, ma'am.
I assume that if they're permitted before we go into stage 3, then they're going to operate under stage 2. Okay. And then I maybe missed it, but I didn't say anything in stage 2 and 3 about ornamental fountains.
Stage 2, I don't think has anything about fountains. Stage 3, outdoor water features. Do you know what page that's on? David?
It's under I, under,
It's not on stage 2 though, is it?
I under 15, page 15.
It's on page
Okay, that's
15
stage 3.
for page.
Okay.
Okay. But it's not, there's nothing on it for stage 2.
I don't think anything for stage 2, no ma'am. So I think stage 3, it's got to have like a recirculating pump or something like that. They don't want no toilet flapper valves so they can hang, which is notoriously what they do. They hang open and leak. So under M. Yes, ma'am. Oh, no, you're good. Thank you. Okay. Yep. So still on page 12. Did you want me to skip ahead, Mayor, to that section?
I think, unless you all have any questions about athletic fields or dust control, I don't.
What I need is clarification. If golf courses are using gray water,
They're exempted. That's in on page 12, subsection section M, subsection
does
B.
that accelerate? Isn't Escondido using regular water?
They're using raw lake water.
Yeah.
They're using raw lake water. They have a contract with El Cire.
Yeah.
By the reading of this, yes, they will be subjected. So
They have met with LCRA. I met with their agronomist, and they have met with LCRA, and they've kind of gone through the same program we have just for golf courses. It's going to be managed differently because it is a commercial operations, but they're going to have to pull their restrictions back too. And I believe even the golf courses are looking at, what grasses work best, which is what we need to be doing too on all new houses. So, yeah,
the resort golf courses are the same. It's only the courses out west that use effluent, and truthfully, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Even for just those two to completely water them, they still supplement with lake water. No, none of them use potable water. There's no treated water on any of our golf courses in the city, but they are subject to this under LCRA's rules. So,
So no, I think you can go ahead to stage 3.
okay. Stage 3 begins there. So trigger point for that is when the combined storage going in is 750,000 acre feet. And then coming out of it is 825,000. Yes, correct. And the biggest change on the schedule, so I don't have it labeled out quite as much, but it's the same as stage 2. It's the 1 day a week, and then odds and evens are split over 2 days. But instead of having 10 hours, you have midnight to 6. So it restricts back another 4 hours.
who gives LCR? You give LCRA those numbers?
For the times or the
No, for the
storage? No, sir. No, that's so they measure. No, that's something else Array does.
How do they measure?
They measure it based on sea level, and then they did a study. I want to say in this, Jeff may correct me, in the 70s or 80s, they calculated combined storage, and then it's based on sea level elevation.
Where I'm going with this thing, how do they tell that Horseshoe Bay is not violating and Marble Falls is, or et cetera? How are they going to determine which of, or are they going to put everybody in the same bucket?
They will. No, we're all in the same bucket. Sure. Yes, sir. Yeah, that is. This is a one size fits all in the for LCRA. Yes, sir. This is their drought contingency plan. Now ours will have the plans will differ a little bit from municipality to municipality. Like us, we added in the no selling bulk water. That may not be something Marble Falls does. It should, but it may not be. So, but as far as the trigger points and the hours, that is something LCRA mandates on all of us.
You guys have any more questions on stage 3? Okay. Rick, why don't you move forward?
Page 13. So page 14, just a continuation. One thing to note is when we're in stage 3, If you look on page 14, section F, no landscape installations during the months of July, August, and September. So this is something we've talked to the builders about. This is from El Surrey. So we have a builders meeting in May. We're going to make sure that's one of the items on the topic is if we go into stage 3, they cannot do any landscaping during those months. Now after that, they can, but so we'll have to figure that out with COs and how we do erosion control and drainage, so forth. So that's a little bit of a headache on the development side. Well, not a little bit, that's a major headache. So, but part of that is because in stage 3, I can't grant variances anymore. So, and you're going to lose turf.
Does our permitting
Sir?
include landscape plans at all? Can we initially permit? Because how do they get a CO if
They do. So they're required to have the way it reads, they're required to have erosion control. One form of that control is landscaping. There's ACC requirements. If I'm saying something too hot. Okay.
Fine.
ACC has requirements on that too. So basically what we would do is they would have to have erosion control present, but we wouldn't allow the landscape now. Typically people don't really mess with the erosion control. They plant grass. So that's like erosion control is like silt fence and biofilter strips and things like that.
So if we're in stage 3,
yes, sir,
and they can't do any installation, they can still get a CO if the.
Yes, sir. That's something staff are working on. There's a temp CO process, but it costs money, so it'd be an additional cost on the builder. So we'll have some stuff. I'll have some process worked out, and we'll find out what we can do legally. Because we don't really want to hold up COs if we don't have to.
Right.
Seems kind of punitive, but
yeah.
I guess theoretically, homeowner could keep the erosion control up forever if they wanted. They're probably not. So that's one of the things we've got to look into and make sure that we're making a good decision too. So
Thank you.
good question though. Yep. Okay. And then there's also section G. Another thing is new irrigated landscapes representing redesign. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I did. Yes, sir. Yeah, good catch there. Yeah, you want to make sure that y'all know it goes from 10 hours to 6 hours, stage 2 to 3. Yep. Another one is landscape redesigns representing more than 50% of the area may only be installed. So this is, we're in stage 3. You already have landscape and you want to replace half of it or replace main lines or whatever. You can only do that if you have scheduled a variance. So we can kind of grant a variance, but only in this one narrow scope, and drought tolerant or native plants turf are installed. So if we're in stage 3 and you want to replace all your turf, you have to put in drought tolerant native turf and you have to apply for and receive a watering variance or we won't permit it.
We have a list of drought tolerant acceptable.
We're working on it. And so that's one of the things is you'd think LCRA, since they're enforcing it, would provide some definitions, but they do not. So we're going to come up with something. Luckily, we do have David and we also have Sandra Nash, landscape architect on staff. So it's something we've talked about that it'll be another thing Horseshoe Bay probably sets the tone for, and then everybody copies this, but something we'll do. And then pools, same thing. There's a pool section in here. Can't drain them on pervious surfaces. And then it's basically the same thing as stage 2. Outside water features is a new one on this. Operation of outside water features is allowed only if the system recirculates through a closed loop system. So it can't have a freshwater valve. It's got to be recirculatory. And then outdoor misting system, same thing, 4 p.m. and 12 a.m. And splash pad fountains are only allowed if it recirculates the water. We don't have those here. As far as I know, I don't think the resort has any, but if they put them in, they'll have to recirculate. Which is not a great idea to recirculate that water from a health safety standpoint. There's a section of events, so car washes, festivals, water slides, etc. They're permitted only if, again, it drains to a recirculating device. So if you want to wash your car, you got to reuse the water if you're putting on like a fundraiser. We don't have a lot of that in Horseshoe Bay, but it is something we felt should be added. And then there's restricted activities, washing your vehicles, etc., between midnight, 10 a.m., and then 7 p.m. and midnight. So we restrict when you can do that.
Okay. So stage 4?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, page 16, stage 4. So so if you hit stage 4, it's considered drought of record. That is, so it is kind of serious when we get that far. Going in, it's when the combined amount drops below 600,000 acre feet. This is the stage where it starts to involve pro rata curtailment. So they will take our numbers for Horseshoe Bay. They'll take our numbers, I believe it's 2021, but I will confirm that. They take whatever you use then and they curtail you by 20%. So you only get 80% of that maximum amount. So I will watch this very closely if they think we're going there, because one of the concerns you brought up several times is we've added several residences since then, thousands, and we're still held to that. So it'll be something we'll need to watch throughout the year. If we start to approach what that curtailment would be, we don't want to hit it in August and then have used all of our water for the year. Would be a very bad position. So it's something David and Ray and I will keep a very close eye on and advise y'all. But that is, basically worst case scenario to go into curtailment.
Is there a sense of percentages that you can give us? What 600,000?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
looks like
really easy.
We
Yeah,
talked about the level of the lakes.
Yes, sir. So it's, even for a math guy, that's an easy math one for me. So I said the combined storage is 1.8 million in normal. They can theoretically hold 2 million. So they base everything on that theoretical. So 600,000 is 30%.
30%.
Yes, sir. And that's combined. So one of the things is because of the issue with the Inks Dam last year, Buchanan is artificially higher than Lake Travis would typically be if the way they typically manage the lakes. So if you go in Travis is down in the 30th percentile right now. For this, they'd probably be in the high 20s. If you boated Travis, it would be almost not usable for recreation at that point. So it's pretty serious. Like I said, I think the drought of record, you know what year the drought of record is currently?
It was in 2011, I think. It got down to 33% combined both lakes.
660.
So that was the lowest it got.
So if they exceed that, it would be new drought of record. They're 50-50 on it. It's a wild deviation from last year because they talked about El Nino and all this rain we were going to get and flood protocol and all this stuff, and then it just didn't materialize. So if we go into that, the trigger going in. Oh, I'm sorry, Elaine. Yes, ma'am.
One of the questions that comes to my mind is, will the businesses that have car washes, will this impact them? How will this impact those people? Will they still have a certain quota that they can have on water, or is it going to impact them at all?
Yes, ma'am. That's a good question. So she asked, how will it impact businesses with car washes? So they'd have to recirculate the water, unfortunately. When you start getting in the stricter sections of the drought contingency plan, car washes are usually kind of a low-hanging fruit that they restrict.
Okay, let's.
Yes, ma'am. So the main thing is going in for stage 4, going in is 600,000 acre feet, going out is 1.4 million. So it is considerably different. So if we go into drought of record, LCRA stance is they will not lift stage 4 restrictions and curtailment until we are out of the drought completely, which they say is 70%. So that is the major thing. If we go into this, we're likely, barring a major flood, to be in it for a very long time. So.
Right. So you said that's 600 is roughly 30%.
Yes, sir.
So now if we go to 1.4, so that's
70%.
So we're going from 30% to 70% before we get out of stage 4.
Correct. And we would go straight from 4 back to stage 0, which is no restrictions.
What a brilliant decision that was.
Are you sure?
So, Rick, what I'd like to do, council, is to get someone to make a motion, and then we can have further discussion if you all would like. There's a motion on the very possible motion on the front of this first page. We kind of have to make a motion, guys. We can't not do this.
I will. Yeah, not to.
Just would someone like to volunteer to make?
I'll do it. I reluctantly move to approve ordinance 2024-10 as presented by staff.
Motion was made by Councilmember Jones. Is there a second?
I reluctantly second it.
Reluctantly seconded by Councilmember Morgan. Now, is there any further discussion, council members? I just want to thank your team. I know this has been an incredibly huge amount of work for you all. With everything else that's going on, Rick, I know this has been really tough, and it's really incredibly tough that the LCRA is still a galloping pony here and making your life even more miserable, because you get this huge document done and then they make a change and you've got to work it all the way through. So we're very appreciative of the amount of work that all of you have done and will continue to do. And David, we sympathize with you. We know that you're going to get the brunt of all this, and you know, I know you got broad shoulders, but you're very nice in dealing with people. But hopefully, we'll be able to publicize this in a way that the community will understand that this is not your doing, it's not our doing. You know, I appreciate that the LCRA is concerned about our water and that they're protecting it. I wish they had been more receptive to our ideas, and if they cut us back to 2021. And take 20% of that, that's a year that we were being good. And I think it's extremely unfair for us to be punished for that. So all of that. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? So the motion to approve ordinance 2024-10 is approved.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you
Council.
very much. Now we get to talk about budget adjustments. So ordinance number 2024-11, Molly Jester. Council, this is in your packet.
I know.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I would like to present ordinance 2024-11, which is approving and adopting an amendment to several funds for this fiscal year. The information was summarized in the staff report along with the individual amendments. The audit was received and reviewed yesterday by myself, the mayor, and Jeff. The auditors have an entry to reverse 2 trucks purchased by the fire department last year, which totaled $404,000, and put it into this year. They were included in the last year budget, but we will need to amend this year budget for the $404,000 due to this audit adjustment. So that's in addition to the ones you've already seen. Are there any questions?
So we are on page 48 of your packet, Council.
Thank you.
And basically, this is the same information that we discussed at the budget workshop on April 2nd. The only difference is that Molly broke out the spreadsheet that you're looking at, and we're only talking about budget adjustments here. We're not talking about audit adjustments because we didn't have those at this time. The only reason that we're suggesting that we add this one that we got from an audit adjustment is it's the 2 brush trucks, and we didn't actually receive them until October the 11th. So the auditors, we had included them in our financials and set them up as an account payable last year, but the auditors backed them out because we didn't actually receive them, and they said we weren't obligated to pay for them until this fiscal year. So Molly and Jeff and I thought it would be good to go ahead and add that to the budget adjustment. Otherwise, from now to the end of the year, we're just going to be having this $400,000 difference in our budget because they're going to be included in this year's budget.
What item is this on the agenda?
What item is this? It's item, it's on page, it's under business, it's
This is B.
8B, ordinance 2024-11.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's on page 28 of the packet.
Well, you said 47 and that's.
Well,
I got it. Okay.
Well, maybe, I may have said that, well, I mean, that's where it started, was on.
That's where the paper is. I got it.
So all of these adjustments we discussed at the last meeting. Does anyone have any further questions for Molly on these budget adjustments? Okay, then there is a suggested, I think what we need to do is make a motion. Someone needs to move to approve the ordinance 2024-11 with the revisions included by staff in the presentation.
I'd like to make that motion. I move to approve ordinance 2024-11 as presented by staff with amendments.
Is there, okay, so Councilmember King made a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-11 with the changes included in the staff report. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Any questions? Any
Yes.
discussion?
Is this are we just doing is this just for the trucks or are we doing all of
No,
it?
no, no. This is for the whole,
This is the whole deal.
yes,
Okay. All right.
including the trucks.
That's okay.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the motion, motion carries, so ordinance 2024-11 will go into effect. Now we move on to a request for building permits. Mr. Clausen's been sitting here patiently all through the whole meeting. So, Christina, would you like to, the first one is property
39.
located at 39 Applehead Island Drive.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tom, again for your patience. This is a third re-permit, standard process as we've been. I don't know that there's any. Mr. Clausen, you have anything you'd like to add?
No, but we're going to try very hard to get it done.
60 days? Requesting 60 days for a third re-permit of $5,000.
Council, any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on, the suggested motion is on page 35.
I move to approve Westwood Custom Builders requested third permit for 39 Applehead Island Drive for 60 days for $5,000.
Thank you, Councilmember Morgan made the motion. Is there a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilman.
And now we move on to item, 222 Sunray with Southern Legacy Building Group.
Yes, I'm sorry, he had to leave. He had a
Jeff,
prior,
yes.
yeah, Jeff Smith, he had to leave. He had a prior commitment. So standard again, third re-permit, asking for 60 days for the $5,000. So my understanding is he too is getting close and expects to be able to complete it within the next 60 days.
And I did visit with Mr. Smith before he left, and I just wanted to let the council know what he told me. The reason he's needed these extensions, he said in this one, is because his client is undergoing cancer treatment in Houston and has not been available to make selections like he needs him to make. And Mr. Smith wasn't asking for any forbearance, but he just told me that was the reason. And he said he hadn't discussed it with his client. He didn't want to burden the man with it, so I think he's paying him. And I just wanted to bring this up because if we wanted to, we could ask for a letter from Mr. Smith requesting that we waive the fee or that we reduce the fee. We could accept that. We could ask for something from a doctor that lets us know. I mean, I don't want to put us in a position of being abused by this, but you know, I'd like to point this out to you all in the event that you'd like to consider something other than just the regular action that would be taken. So are there any thoughts from the rest of the council members?
Does the gentleman recognize that he has caused the delay? I mean, I know he's got cancer, but
What Jeff told me is that he has not told the owner about these extensions because he didn't want to further burden his situation. I mean, and I have no reason not to believe him.
so I didn't ask Jeff specifically. Did he say that he could still do it within the 60 days?
I think he thinks he can do it within 60 days.
I'd say we just pass on the 5,000.
So what are your thoughts, Dwight?
My thoughts are that if you're opening a window here, you can always come back and refund it. If he comes back and requests a refund, we can always do that. But if we start for everything that comes up, what reason it was, I think we've opened a can of worms there, and I think you have to stay with what your rules are. But you can always come back and if they come back and request it, we can certainly refund it.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I like the idea of the refund after they apply for it.
Okay, so you're saying that if
Are we
he,
able to do that?
you're saying that if he asked us to waive the fee, that we could later go back and waive it? Or are you saying if he finished it before 60 days, we could refund part of the fee?
I'm saying if they had a legitimate problem there and that the builder and the owner come back and ask for something, I can see where we could do that. But I can't see just waiving things without having these are the rules, stay with the rules for right now, but you can always refund the money.
And I wasn't suggesting that. I said
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need some kind of a
Process.
letter requesting that, but
So to clarify,
ahead.
you're saying that we would go ahead and charge him the normal fees, and then at CO, if he wanted to, he could come back and request a refund for that or any difference in the days, amount of days?
Humanitarian refund.
Is that permissible in our ordinances?
There's an,
Don't believe there's a
That's
process
research.
for that, but that's what we could look at
Yeah.
is defining a process.
it's not in the process
Yeah,
currently, and not in the ordinance that I'm aware of.
Because truly, we have heard a few
Yeah.
horror stories in the
Right.
past also
Right.
that were not of anybody's fault.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with Councilmember King on setting a precedent here on coming up with a good reason why I shouldn't be charged money.
I
Rick,
would,
did you want to, did you have some?
Yes, Mayor. So just a suggestion, possibly we could charge them. And then if you'd like, I can go back, we can research the ordinance and I can update you at the next council meeting. And if it's something a possibility, y'all can give us some guidance on what you'd like to see to waive that. If you'd like.
Well, I know that, I'm not going to say I know, but I'm quite sure, I think I'm sure that the council has the ability to waive these fees because we did it during COVID. We gave everybody an automatic 6-month extension for free. So I do believe it's within the council's power to make some changes in these things if we choose to. But I agree, I certainly agree with you that we have to be careful because we'll find everybody coming in here is going to have a sob story, and that's not what we want to do. I just wanted to share that with you because I thought this was something I thought you deserved to hear that.
Having lived next door to a building going on right now, I see things that could have been done a year ago to whenever that they could have done to get the things finished. So with that thought, I move to approve Southern Legacy Building Group request for a third free permit for 222 Sunray for 60 days for $5,000.
Okay, Councilman King has made a motion on this extension. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
And-
do you
yes.
have any guidance for us on this going forward? Is there something Mayor Council would like us to do?
Well, I think based on what everybody is saying that, and with what Christina said, if, and y'all correct me if you think this is not what you said, if down the road, this particular situation comes back and they document and ask for some sort of refund of some portion of it, then I think the council would consider that
Received.
on a case-by-case basis.
case by case. Okay.
Okay, and now,
1217, Apache Tears.
yes, okay, so the next one is 1217 Apache Tears.
We do have a representative from Zabranik and Holt here if they would like to speak to what's going on with your project and why you need
Sure.
this extension.
Steve Zabranik, Zabranik and Holt Custom Homes. I'm the past president of the San Antonio Home Builders Association. Austin and my partner Tony Holt's past president here. We've got a lot of time standing at the podium and addressing people and helping with this. Really happy that I just heard what you guys did for that guy. I also chair the design review committee in Escondido. So we sit there and we have to decide if builders are screwing off or if something really happened. So first of all, thanks for what you just did for that guy. Ours is slightly different, but none of the builder's fault. Our Huster, we have a 8,000 square foot, $6 million home in Lago Escondido that during the framing stage, our customer sold it to someone else. And they took it upon themselves to get brand new architectural plans and delayed us for a year. When that occurred, we believed at the time that the city had us re-get their permits, get their plans approved, and we did, and we thought that reset our permit, but it turns out that it didn't. So now we're here for our third extension, but I'd like the council to know that we poured the slab last March. We will finish in June. So our company's building an 8,000 square foot house from slab to finish in 15 months. So I feel really bad that I'm getting penalized for that, but I understand that you guys have rules and we're going to go with it. But we will be done in June. And so I ask if you will pass this on, recognizing we've already paid 2 fines for stuff we didn't do.
Okay, council, you have any questions?
I don't remember what we paid.
It's 2,000 and 1,000 is the first 2. But so, Christina,
Yes, ma'am.
when was this permit issued?
Original permit was issued at the beginning of 22, and it took all of 22 to get through my 2 buyers' dilemmas. And we were much madder about that than y'all. But once we finally got going, and again, I brought our staff member here, but when the inspector came out and said, this is a different house, you need to run it back through. Maybe Christina, you'll remember this and you can help us. And we did do that. But at that time, I thought our permit started over.
Yeah,
Okay, read my
revisions
mind
don't,
here.
typically revisions do not reset a permit. We get
Right,
them
no,
all the
I-
time on new residential builds, and they typically do not reset the permit date.
Okay. So you're reading my mind, right? When did we pass that ordinance that we extended the length of a permit on an 8,000 square foot house?
So that actually was just a few months ago. That's correct. So that would be an option, since he is now in that. Well, what did we change that to? That was 3 years for something that was over 10,000 square feet.
Oh, it was 10,000, not 8,000.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, it's still 2 years for.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or discussions?
But there was an ownership change. Am I
Yes,
correct?
there was. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a different caveat, I think.
What other change?
And I don't know.
We had an ownership.
You know,
change,
we,
said,
I mean,
yeah.
the
I don't
same
know if I
thing
have a
happened on
permit
Aurora,
application for
Frank,
that ownership
with the
change.
house that Eileen Hurd had bought and somebody else bought it. I mean, that happens all the time. And I mean, I think what the purpose of this is we're considering the effect on the community,
Yeah, I understand.
and that didn't change. So,
Clearly, to me, from your perspective, it seems punitive to penalize you. It should be the people that bought the house.
Actually, I don't think they did anything wrong. It's the guy that sold the house after the middle. He's the one that made the $1 million.
okay, are there any other questions?
But I'll just close with thank you for hearing me. I've been through this kind of stuff so many times. I would wish that maybe y'all would be able to give the staff some opportunity to review these, like you said, case by case. And I really want you to run the bad guys off. All the good guys want you to run the bad guys off. But sometimes the good guys aren't bad guys, and we're still treated the same way.
I know it's unfortunately it's a very difficult place to put them in into making those determinations. Yes, did you have something else you wanted to say? Okay, anybody? Okay, I'll
Good
entertain a
comments, though.
motion.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Pardon me?
much.
Good comments.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
And you're right, we feel the same way. Do I have a motion? On page 39, there's a suggested motion.
I'll make a motion. If I'm not getting in the way with too many motions.
No, go ahead. You can, it's anybody who
Move
wants to make a
approve
motion.
The Zabronic and Holt Custom Homes request for the 3rd permit. 1217 Apache Tiers for 60 days for 5,000.
So I have a motion by Councilmember King. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Second by Councilmember Morgan. All in favor, or is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
No?
No.
Oh, no. Frank, one no vote from Councilmember Hosea. The motion passes.
Could I ask one question, or are we through with that?
Well, we're through with it, but
Yes, sir.
I don't know,
For my
can we, now that we've already voted, can we continue discussing it, Dottie?
It's not a discussion, it's just a question to him.
Okay.
I have a question too, because this same house is going to want to put grass in real soon. And I just heard what you went through. So we're going to need some guidance on that too, because we can't put the grass in, it'll die.
You know, and I will say my sympathies to the building community. This is going to be incredibly confusing. it's going to take a great deal of time from them. I would suggest that you call David Milligan. David, if you have a card and you can give it to him, maybe.
Sure.
I mean, I want everything to go through Rick, but Rick can't do everything. So
we have 3 houses in this category that are going to finish. And,
Yeah.
and I can tell them don't put grass in, but if they do, they have to water.
Well, that's right. And there are some ways that there's some variances that we can offer during stage 2, but not during stage 3. So, and we may be there quickly. So it's a good thing to have your heads up. Okay, council, we're moving on to item 9, consent agenda.
I move that we,
Hold on a second. I'm seeing if we're getting. Is there something we need to? Oh, okay. We're moving on to a consent agenda. Council, is there anything that you all want to remove from the consent agenda? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Jones. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember Hosea. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed say no. The motion carries. So now monthly reports. Do any of you all, Jeff, I guess you'll go first, right?
Yes, ma'am. Just, we just went through the eclipse and we did a lot of preparation and work for that. And I like to thank the crew. I think that Doug did a great job prepping us, getting us ready. I know there's tons and tons of hours that went into prepping, and we were all surprised that we had very few incidents here. But I want to tell you, we were ready and ready to go, and took care of business and had no issues through that time period. But the staff was geared up. When we realized that it was going to be less than the normal, then they used their goods management skills and decided to downsize staff where we could, which saved the city money. It still cost us more to get prepped and ready and be ready for that, but we did cut where we could, and we made it through it just fine. So we're ready for the next eclipse. That's good.
Y2K.
Is there anything else?
No, you thank the cloud.
Yeah. And then Rick is going to give a little bit of update on some of the software there that you had asked for about MGO and Granicus.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Jeff. Mayor Council. So a quick update. So Granicus is the short-term rental software. So it is currently functioning and active. There's a little bit of a miscommunication with us and getting the number posted correctly. And then also PD, we were able to get them a list, I think last month or the month before. So previously they didn't have a comprehensive list of all the short-term rentals in the city, so that they can mark those, I guess, if they have calls to them. So we're able to extract that and get it out. So as of now, it seems to be working. I have not followed up with PD to see if they had a higher volume of calls. Do you know if you did, Jason, during the eclipse? So should be good. I think it's on the Granicus side, it's working as advertised. On MGO has been kind of a hot button issue, especially the last couple months with builders and with staff. We have some challenges to extracting data and then the usability of it. This is something that I tasked David with Utilities Department. He has a pretty good working relationship with their chief technology officer for some of his previous employment. So he's reached out to him. We're going to get their chief officer to come in and talk to him about some of the issues we're having and what we do going forward. In the meantime, we've done a pause of the software. So we unpublished it from the website and have pivoted back to FundView. We have that parallel currently. So, and then that was something that staff had done previously is they've kept permits in both softwares so we could pivot in case there was a hiccup with this in the short term. So right now we're back in FundView. We're going to do the best we can and try to remedy through the means outlined in the contract, and then also using common sense to get MGO up and running correctly. But currently it's not. So that's kind of where we are with it. We've gone back to FundView. Our numbers in this month's report, it's one of the reasons they were late. It was hard to get stuff out of MGO. So we anticipate that'll be better going forward. Okay. Any specific questions on that?
Questions, council? Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
That's all. That is all.
Okay, that's all. Do any of the council members, do you all have any reports from your committees that you're liaison on? Nope. Wait, yes.
The land use committee, the new committee that we developed, we had our third weekly meeting this Monday. And that committee is doing really good on honing in on their goals right now. And so we're moving forwards with that committee very well. So I just wanted to give you an update on that.
Right.
A transportation meeting will meet on tomorrow. And so I'll know more about that. Unfortunately, I don't have anything.
And the Citizens Academy graduation will be tomorrow at
Thursday.
Thursday at 2:00 at the Resort Yacht Club. Is that right? The ballroom?
Is that correct? Yes.
So
Ballroom,
if any of you all want to attend, you're invited
absolutely.
to attend.
Yeah.
Now, if there's no other business, then we're going to go
Can I
into.
make one quick comment?
Absolutely.
I have had a lot of citizen questions about the water restrictions coming up. And they're very concerned about their irrigation systems and the value that they place on their yards. And I told them that we had learned in our workshop that the best way to water is not an hour on each zone, but to split it out. Now, I can't educate myself on doing that, much less educate them on whatever their system is. When we roll this thing out, let's make sure that we have some kind of a primer that goes to people on that. You're obviously on top of it.
Yes, sir. We will be having some open public meetings, and we're going to provide some consulting on how they can achieve that watering through the cycle soak feature I was telling you guys about.
Yes.
So that's the way to achieve that. That's basically applying 50% of the water at a time, start it over and do the other 50% at 1 day a week. Other irrigators I've talked to are already doing it because they know it works and the yards look much better. We actually do that at this facility to maintain what we have here. So we will communicate that.
Way to stay on top of that.
So you can set your time. Is there a way to set the system to do that?
Yes, sir. You just put 50% of the time or back it off to 50% and then add a start time. So it just repeats one time.
Okay. Then if there's no other business, we are going to go into executive session. I'll give the time for the public. Unfortunately, we don't have any place that we can move to when we go into executive session. I don't anticipate that there'll be any votes after executive session, but if there is a vote, we'll come out of executive session and vote in a public meeting. So we have to ask you to leave, but you're welcome to come back in afterwards. So we're going to go into executive session at 4:48. Take a quick break, council, and then please get back in here because we don't want to be here.
You need to read the items into the record. You need to announce
The executive